So let me ask you this. Hath not a Palestinian eyes? Hath not a Palestinian hands, organs, dimensions, senses, affections, passions, fed with the same food, hurt with the same weapons, subject to the same diseases, healed by the same means, warmed and cooled by the same winter and summer as a Jew is? If you prick them, do they not bleed? If you tickle them, do they not laugh? If you poison them, do they not die? And if you wrong them, shall they not revenge? Apologies to Shakespeare there for taking liberties with his original wording, but I couldn't think of a better way to get the point across. First and foremost, let's get the all-important disclaimer out of the way by unreservedly condemning what Hamas did to the Israelis on October 7. The militant Palestinian organization that governs the Gaza Strip fired thousands of rockets at Israel and then sent its fighters deep into Israeli territory, where they massacred more than 1,400 people, civilians and soldiers alike, before retreating with nearly 200 hostages. This indiscriminate slaughter and kidnapping of innocents, including defenseless women and children, was it an atrocity? Oh, absolutely. Should we call it terrorism? Sure, why not? Now let's address Israel's swift and terrible retribution, which has only just started, and nearly 4,000 Palestinians in Gaza are dead and still counting. More than 1,500 of those killed were children. How is it acceptable or justifiable by any measure that Palestinian children are being slaughtered every day as Israeli warplanes carpet bomb the Gaza Strip? Keep in mind this is a narrow stretch of land just 41 kilometers long and 6 to 12 kilometers wide, into which 2.3 million unfortunates are crammed and confined for life, short as that life may be. Should we call this much larger massacre of innocents terrorism as well? Not if you ask the Western world, and the US in particular, the one country that wields the power and influence to stop this asymmetric exaction of vengeance, as much as Israel has the right to hunt down and punish those responsible for the mass murder of its people. I'm not even going down the rabbit hole of history to look into how much more the Palestinians have suffered and lost, or the root and recent causes and consequences leading us to this latest crisis in the Middle East. I'm just focusing on this latest escalation because it could easily plunge the region into a wider war that the world cannot afford and surely should not allow. Surely this is something to contemplate for the US and its Western allies as they dominate the global narrative with the megaphone muscle of their ever-compliant stenographers in the Anglo-Saxon legacy media, granting Israel carte blanche to defend itself. Pardon me for being unable to process how blowing babies to bits can be defense or defensible. Just as I can't fathom how gunning down children in their homes or young people at a music festival can be justified as resistance. Sorry if I'm causing offense on both sides. It's the human in me, I guess. Speaking of humanity, or the lack of it in this zero-sum zeitgeist, don't forget how American and European officials and politicians weaponized words like sheer terror and war crimes and crimes against humanity when they condemned the impact of Russia's war in Ukraine on civilian lives and infrastructure. But the same concerns cannot be applied to the far worse plight of the Palestinians. Why? Because they're not white? Oh, and one more for cognitive dissonance. I was given the distinct impression that the West cares really deeply for Muslims, judging by its very vocal concerns about China's treatment of Uyghurs in Xinjiang. So let me ask you this. Aren't Palestinians Muslims too?